has a lot of green grass, and he's going to pick up that first down. Out of bounds, the longest third down for Philadelphia so far at 3rd and 7. Hurts with time, has a man, and it's caught. Quez Watkins has the big game. That's blocked. Loose ball, though, to the Eagles. It's grabbed by Dallas.
So aggressiveness from the defense is what you're looking for.
Ring 5. Hurts taking a deep shot. He's got his man. Quez Watkins. Big gainer. Down inside the... They go right back to the sneak. Garoppolo got hit initially and then surged ahead. Hasty motions out to empty the set. 11th play of this drive is a Garoppolo pass. Down the seam and he connects. There goes Deebo Samuel. Yards after... There's 2 catches for Smith, neither for big yardage. Blitz from San Francisco. Hurts stands and delivers. Incoming possession game. Little toss play. Here comes Gainwell, and he's in. Quarterback sneak, and it is a first down for Jimmy Garoppolo.
We're live. Welcome everybody. Ratio Sports Heat Ratio Live Postgame show. Postgame show. I'm your host Tony. Big talk. As always, by the entire the Heat Ratio crew covers here. My boy Chris, my man Al. Before we get started, I want to say I want to give some of my condolences out to one of our family members. My man Jay Sumner, who lost his dad today. Sports Skillet radio show. Dad was sick for a while. Dad passed away this morning, so shout out goes to Jay. My man, we're thinking of you and the family, as always. Also, on a brighter note, I want to give a shout out to my boys, the Warminster Vipers, who go 2-0 today, winning.
Oh, whoa.
Start off 2-0 for the soccer season.
Okay.
Looking good, man. Looking good. Give it. But we all can't have positivity because we got to get right down to the Eagles. Now, listen, I have already tempered my expectations for this. I really have. I don't expect a ton. I don't. I see a lot of people right away on Twitter into the first quarter, like burying Jalen Hurts, burying like everybody. Just like I don't know what you expected this year. Like I guess everybody thought 1-0 we're going to win the Super Bowl, but everybody, it's going to be a week to week ordeal, and I already knew. San Francisco 49ers, say what you want. They might have lost their entire secondary, but they do have a guy named Warner. They do have a guy named Bosa. They have some very, very good defensive players, and they also have a great coach in Mr. Kyle Shanahan. So, one thing was for sure, they were going to test Jalen Hurts, which they did. I'm just going to get a quick spin on it until we get to everybody else. I'll just say right off the bat, I think, number one, I think that we got away from what worked last week. The play call was a little erratic in the second half. Way too many long ball shots. There was a lot of, the game plan was not the same as it was, not to keep it short and keep it simple. I think Sirianni got out of his element a little bit. No big deal. He's a rookie head coach. This is what happens, right? These are big games. So we look ahead to Big Dallas, but today we go down 17-11. I think we had opportunities. We missed some opportunities in the first half. The second half was not as good, obviously. But this is the Eagles team that's going to learn. Unfortunately, shout out also big major loss. Brandon Graham, terrible. I mean, soon as he came up lame, I'm like, it's his Achilles. Like we all know from watching football and seeing these injuries, I think we knew right off the bat it's his Achilles. Unfortunately, it was. Couldn't have. It's a shame because I hate to say it, but probably the last time we may see Brandon Graham. Right? This is a big time injury. He's already up there in age. Unbelievable person. Met him a couple times. Gives everybody the time of day. And I'll tell you what, it sucks. It just sucks. But let's get into it real fast. Let's look at this game. As always, it's our post-game show brought to you again by our good friends Prime Roofing, Blue Flame HVAC, and Rise and React Media. So I'll go right to left. My right, not your left, but to Dan, Old School Green. Dan, your thoughts of the game. What were you thinking? And what are you thinking, man?
I actually went to the game today, and I had
nice,
solid.
I had terrific.
That's why.
You're banned from being at the game ever
No,
again.
stop. There's no such thing as a jinx. Get out of here. Not enough cool. Never.
Yeah, because I'm sure one of the 50,000 people there probably had a high rate of success.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
So anyway, I had great seats. I had a pretty great perspective, and the game was lost in the first half. We dominated play. There was one point where they had, I think, 5 total yards rushing. The Niners did. Garoppolo looked terrible. The Rager going out of bounds, getting a touchdown was a killer. The blocked field goal was a killer. The 91-yard play to Quez Watkins that you get nothing out of because you did a stupid 4th down attempt when you should have taken the points, giving San Francisco momentum where they drove the length of the field, and that flipped the game. And then the whole second half, once the Niners got up, it felt like a 40-point deficit, even though we weren't down that much, because we couldn't move the ball. And real fast, and I'm not bashing on Jalen Hurts because I contend he's a playmaker. I've said that numerous times. But when you're live at the game, you can see on his deep throws, he just doesn't have great arm strength. I mean, his guys were beyond the D-backs, and if he had just led them, he had so many opportunities. But his guys are slowing down, and the defenders are catching up to get to the ball. And like a couple times to Devonta Smith, he would have had big plays if he just had that cannon of an arm. But that being said, look what he does with his legs to get out of a mess in the pocket. Getting to Tone's point, you got to temper your expectations. But yet, when you're at a game and you see it's winnable and they're playing well at points, you kind of want them to grasp the victory. And then at the end of the day, you're like, well, maybe this is the team that we thought they would be. So they have potential, but they're just not there yet. And it's kind of like when the Eagles got there with Andy Reid, the pickle juice game. That was like the moment you're like, now they've arrived. They weren't quite ready the years before, but then they've arrived. We're not quite ready yet. We're not there yet. We have the pieces. We have maybe the coaching staff, but we're just not ready to take that next step yet, in my opinion.
I agree. And Adam, our buddy Adam checking in says, disappointed loss, but the Eagles are a young team. They will bounce back. Absolutely. Listen, they're resilient, right? And to Dan's point, obviously, and to my point, I'm sure, Nick and Chris are going to echo the same kind of sentiment that this is a young team. It's a new team. I mean, come on, like, give the guy, we've been through this before. And that's the thing. We've been like, we're not done. We're the most intelligent fan base in the NFL. There's a reason why we watch games. We break down. We have the people in the NFL understand how many people that are Philadelphia fans that sit there on their own and break down film. Who does that but in Philadelphia? So listen, we understand. I don't talk about those idiots on Twitter that talk about, hey, this guy sucks, this guy stinks because it's a bad pass. Those guys couldn't tell between cardboard and plastic in a giant lot, okay? So what I'm talking about is the people that actually have an intelligence level for the NFL. So with that being said, Chris, what are your points? What'd you take away from this game, buddy?
Honestly, this game was a well-fought game. There weren't a lot of mistakes. Dan brought it up. The deep ball was an issue. There was a couple plays where he wasn't able to throw it deep enough where the guy had to go back and catch the ball. I feel like that was very important. I've been really critical about Jalen Hurts, but he is still impressing me more and more. There was the thing with Donovan McNabb. He always was afraid to run the ball because of the narrative he can't throw the ball. I hate that. If you have a weapon like legs, who cares? Like, look at Hurts today. He had a wide open lane. He ran for 20-some yards. Like, use your strengths. I don't care what the skin color is, like any of that stuff. I don't care. Use your skill set. I think that's the most important thing. I don't think that makes you a worse quarterback because we know Hurts can throw. I mean, he played high-level college football. And we saw Devonta Smith today. So he didn't have biggest stat numbers in the world. All right. But he was cooking Norman today. Like, he got PI calls left and right. His route running was fantastic as usual. But I think the two things that we have to look at that we lost today, the Eagles had 0 sacks today. We did not get to the quarterback. And I think that's the biggest issue. And Brandon Graham, I'm a huge Brandon Graham fan. Great guy. He worked his way and he got kind of in as a bad rep through Michigan and everything. Worked his way up. He's a Philadelphia legend forever. I don't care what anyone says. Absolutely love the guy. He wants to be here forever. He obviously took the deal to be here and everything like that. So that's really sad to see him go because I tore my Achilles before too, playing basketball. It's a big injury. And being a high level athlete, I wasn't obviously not high level athlete like Brandon Graham, of course, but that's a serious deal. So he's going to be out. And I feel like the time possession, that was going to be an issue because they really like to run the ball, the 49ers, with Cusick, with the play action and everything. So those are the two things. I'm not too disappointed with this loss. I'm not going to lie. I think we can definitely do some damage against the Cowboys next week. There's a lot of holes. Lawrence is going to be out, so I don't think Hurts is going to get as much pressure. So while it's a loss, and I could bitch about the loss left and right, I'm totally not too concerned about this one personally.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's been my, it's been my sentiments all along. I'm taking this game by game, week by week. I think even, we talked about a lot. This team scoring a lot of points and getting a lot of yards and losing a lot of games. Today, they didn't score a lot of points and they didn't gain a lot of yards, right? But again, it was still, there was parts of the game. You make a good point about, Devontae Smith, even though he wasn't getting the catches, he was causing havoc outside. So, we had open plays, right? We had open plays. I think we ran the ball pretty well. I do. I again, which I think was a solid thing, but we couldn't stop the run.
Yeah.
We couldn't stop the run. And again, if you look at the box score, and this is a typical Kyle Shanahan offensive game plan, he had 6 to 7 dudes run the ball at least 3 or 4 times. Even Deebo Samuel was getting runs, right? This is what Kyle Shanahan does. And again, JaMychal Hasty, I hope everybody was listening from a fantasy perspective. Told everybody, look at JaMychal Hasty. It's not going to be Elijah Mitchell. It's going to be Hasty. And you see what Hasty can do. They have a ton of long legs on that team. And the Philadelphia Eagles, they just couldn't stop them. We were losing between the trenches on the defensive line. And again, the whole thing with Jimmy Garoppolo is if you give him time, he will pick you apart. And that's what happened. In the first half, I thought we were getting to him, probably in the first quarter. But the second quarter, it started. We were giving him too much time. And that's when the plays at Deebo Samuel were happening. The plays at JaMychal Hasty were happening. That's what started to happen. So, Nick, my man, what do you think of this game? And what were your thoughts, buddy?
I think this game was absolutely horseshit. Sorry.
I love it.
But first of all, the penalties are such bad penalties. The Barnett penalty completely destroyed us. That was the dumbest penalty I ever seen happen. It made zero sense. It was just, let me see if I can throw my weight around. It's that was ridiculous. The only player that showed up today was Hurts. He's the only one that showed up today. Everybody else just thought they were going to walk through this game. And to have the 49ers come all the way to us and play a 1:00 game and you don't beat the hell out of them is ridiculous. And the fact that the Cox gets double teamed after the first quarter every single time. Somebody else needs to do something. And it doesn't work. I'm sorry, but you got to have Cox one man on man. That means you got to blitz because all the other 4 guys that are on the line, and Graham's hurt. He's done. You got to figure that out. The play calling, I thought they played to Hurts' strengths. They actually had naked bootlegs just for him to take off, and he runs and gets a first down almost every time. They should have done that almost every play just because he was the only one doing anything. And I really, really, really like Nelson. I think he covers pretty well for a guy that just came in. And I don't like to kill everybody, but he came to play.
Yes,
I'm looking at my notes.
Yeah, I need the notes.
2010, it was the longest drought for a 91-yard pass. That was the longest pass we had since Deshaun Jackson. And that says something about your play calling. And I love the fact that Hurts is trying to throw the ball down the field. That opens a heck of a lot. If he could just get it over top the safety, we will be golden this year. So everybody keep their hopes high, because if he can get that pass, that will open up everybody on that offense. You're going to have double tight ends. They're all going to cut tight, and they're going to send him gone and see who covers him. There's going to be some openings. So,
listen, and that's the biggest thing. I mean, this is, we're working with Jalen Hurts, right? This is he's played. This is his 5th game that actually means something, right? Like, people usually say that, right? Mark, listen, Mark says, our buddy X checking in says Jalen Hurts looked a lot like Jalen Hurts, right? Saying we need to expect what we need to expect, right? Who he is, right? My man Trevor checking in on the way home. Trevor driving home from the game as well. Upper Bowl Podcast. Represent, my man. Thanks, Trevor. As always, Adam, against his head coach, says he has to make better plays. Calls on his part. We've heard that all before. I think, again, it's a learning experience. Now, Adam says, you guys think the Eagles should have ran the ball more. Listen, I honestly, I'll say this, and I'll dive deep into the stats in a minute, but I just think that when you play a more superior team than the Atlanta Falcons, we've talked about adjustments. Now, last week, we've talked about making adjustments. This week, again, it's a chess match. You were making adjustments against Arthur Smith. Well, I'll tell you what, that dude blows. Okay, I'm going to be straight up. I watched that game against him. He stinks. He should not be a head coach. I don't know what he's doing, but it's not right. So if I was Atlanta, I'll tell you what, we're in a different scenario. If I was in Atlanta right now, I'd be very, very concerned. That being said, you're going against Kyle Shanahan. And again, he is the ultimate chess mate, right? So you're looking at that, and you have to understand that this is going to be a learning experience again. I don't know how many times I say it. So do I think they should have ran the ball more? Honestly, I don't think so, because the plays were there. We just didn't make them. Right, so I don't think the play calling was that terrible. I think what could have happened was maybe if you've seen that the few times that Jalen Hurts was missing on those long throws, maybe that's when he should have dialed it back and brought it back to what we seen last week a little more. Take that in perspective how you are. But I don't know, Chris, what do you think? You think they should have ran the ball more, or do you think there's some credence in what I'm talking about?
Well, I just want to touch on what Nikki was saying before about the whole travel situation. They made a little stop to wild, wonderful West Virginia, so they weren't going back home. So it was kind of like a little pit stop for them. So it wasn't the whole West Coast kind of feel. So you got to kind of take that into consideration as well for the most part. But at the end of the day, I feel like the coaching kind of really let them down at the end of the day. He's a rookie coach, right? You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to be perfect every game. I'm okay with that. He coached a great game against the Falcons, even though the Falcons are not that good, but his game plan was still solid for that first game. He's going to make mistakes. I'm okay with making mistakes. You know what? The team didn't really turn over the ball, really, at the end of the day. And I feel like that's an important thing to take into consideration, because he always talked about taking care of the ball and everything. This team is taking care of the ball for the most part. And I really like that. A lot of the Eagles teams from before, we used to get tons of turnovers on stupid shit constantly. I haven't seen it yet. I mean, it's probably going to come up at some point, but hey, you know what? He's stamping that right now, and he's keeping everybody accountable. When we talked on Nick Sirianni with all the things with the rock, paper, scissors and all that stuff, he was always about accountability. You saw him yelling at the defense last week when the defense was hounding people left and right, and he was getting up in them constantly. I think the team's in the right direction. I just think the 49ers were just simply better. They controlled the clock. I think that's all important.
Yes.
And it just wasn't our day this week, and I think the Cowboys game is going to be very interesting. They have a lot of holes in that defense. Lawrence is going to be out. He's a big guy that kills us on the line, getting to the quarterback. And Hurts, he's been pretty good with his little calls for the most part. So I like him on the read options and everything like that. I think there's been a couple of times where he held that ball running with Miles Sanders for about 4 yards or so. But you know what? You can kind of pull away real quick if you want to. You have to respect his run game, and he's not afraid to run. I cannot stress that enough, because some quarterbacks are afraid to run for whatever reason. He uses all his strengths, and I think that's a huge positive. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun on Sunday night.
Yeah, listen, I can't wait for Sunday night, right?
Absolutely.
I think we all can't wait for Sunday night. But you touched on two things, Chris, I think are very important. Number one is the running capabilities of Jalen Hurts. So this week he hits 82 yards, right? 10 rushes for 82 yards. And this is what I want people to understand. Chris, exactly what he said. He's not afraid to run the ball, which is why you're seeing an evolution of Jalen Hurts, because they're teaching him on how not to run the ball all the time. Because if it was up to Jalen Hurts, he'd run the ball 15 times a game, right? So that's what people have to be patient and understand. Like, this is what they've done with Lamar Jackson, right? Lamar Jackson, they were trying to teach him, listen, you can't run 20 times a game, right? So Jalen has always been a run-first quarterback. They're teaching him to be a pass-first quarterback. It takes time. But the good part is that he isn't afraid to run. Now, what I ask you, Dan, is I'm curious about this, because 7 different receivers caught a pass today, but with the most being one receiver getting 2 catches. Now, I love spreading the ball around. I get it. But don't you think, am I nuts to think that eventually you have to get a go-to guy? Because even if you spread the ball around, I understand, which is great, but you still need that one guy that's going to give you those 7 to 10 targets every game that the other team is going to zone in on. Because if not, then you're never going to have over-the-top safety help. You're never going to have a schematic games plan for a specific receiver. So as much as this is moving around and I love it, I'd rather have one guy at least get at least double those targets. What do you think?
No, I agree. And I saw the same stat. I was actually, again, when you're at the game, you don't realize all that stuff until you. So when I got home, I looked at the stats. I was like, wow, the most Goddard and Smith got 2 catches each, and it was pretty much, and Watkins and everyone else had 1. Yeah, I agree with you. And Smith has to be that guy. And something that I found fascinating, and I was talking to the guys at the game, they had a crucial 3rd and 6, and Ertz was jogging off the field, and they had the formation they used wasn't involving Ertz. When did you think that would ever happen? He's usually the go-to guy on 3rd down. Just like who's the go-to guy with San Francisco when you think of 3rd down? Like Kittle or
Gotta
Samuel.
be Kittle or Samuel.
Right.
Yep.
So, but you're right. You have to establish that go-to guy. And also what I want to reiterate something that Chris said. What I like, I guess what makes this, I get, like, when you hear a coach at a press conference that tells you that the players didn't execute, like they don't take it upon themselves that they screwed up. Sirianni said, I got to do a better job of calling plays. He took responsibility for this game. And I agree with Chris. I mean, he made some mistakes, but when you own up to it, the fans aren't going to bite your head off as much.
Bingo.
And that at least this fan isn't. So I'm glad he realized that he didn't call the best game, and that'll save him a little bit in this town. And finally, Tone, getting back to Hurts and his running, I do agree that he doesn't go through the lengthy progressions that a lot of quarterbacks do before he takes off. But I don't feel the concern that he's going to get hurt when he runs. He's a smart runner. He's just not going to take that vicious hit. I think 9 out of 10 of his runs are he sees the Red Seas open and he goes right towards the sideline and he just tiptoes out of bounds. He's not taking any vicious hits. You're not seeing get down and slide. Don't slide head first. He's just cruising out of bounds on most of his runs.
Yeah, he's a very intelligent runner. He really is. And that's a tribute to, number one, the program that he came from, right? The program that he played in. And number 2, you could tell he's very grounded individual, 100% grounded, and doesn't let anything bother him. And again, Brandon Brooks gets injured in this game, right? So Dickerson has to come in and play, which I thought that was pretty shocking, right? So I don't think any of us expected that. I think the offensive line played pretty decent. I'm not concerned about that. I just don't think that the problem was the players. I just think the problem was the game flow and the adjustments. I honestly, except for the defense, because Nikki alluded to this earlier, that there was no pass rush, right? No. And there really wasn't. Josh Sweat becomes the guy now that, because he just inks an extension. And I do think, I think Josh Sweat can be a really good player. But I'll tell you what, losing Brandon Graham, that was the one guy on the defensive end position that could get after the quarterback. Obviously, you have my man Nikki's favorite guy, loves saying the word Cox, right? Loves Cox in the middle, right? So I think he said Cox like 5 times.
Right up the middle. Right up the middle.
Right?
Yeah.
So we got Cox all over, which is fine. Hargrove was playing unbelievable. But again, Nick, going forward, who's going to rush the quarterback? And again, this could be, this could be a big adjustment now for Gannon to say, I may need to blitz more. I need to dial up some more middle linebacker blitzes, right? Something's got to happen, right, buddy?
That's the only thing you can do is blitz. You got to blitz up the middle. You got to have a scheme that has delayed blitzing. You have to put pressure on quarterbacks in this league to have any success and give any of your corners any kind of time. And I love the fact that they press the receivers now. We're not in nickel every time. We are literally right up against them half the time. And that's going to give us more time to get to the quarterback. We just got to get the guy in there. And I don't know who that is at this point, but you got to figure it out. And as far as, hey, we still have the best Penn State running back in the league. All right, guys, we still have the best Penn State running back. We're still tied for first. So let's not jump off the bridge yet. We still have a lot of football to play. There's still a long season. We can pull this through, and we could definitely beat any one of the teams that are in our division. Any 100%. One of them at any given time. I truly believe that. But we got to tune up these little things like the blitzing, the blocking for Hurts, and the dumb penalties have to be corrected. I mean, Nick has to go in and be like, dude, we're in the professional football league. We can't be doing false starts every 3 plays. We cannot have stupid penalties like blocking somebody in the back that means nothing to our football team. So on a positive note, we're still tied for first, people.
No, we are. But again, one thing I will say is, and I'm not as far, obviously not jumping off the bridge at all. But what I will say, though, is next week's going to be a big test because, Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott just showed that they're a pretty good 1-2 combo. And again, 191 yards between the both of them on the ground. So if we couldn't stop the run this week, we better damn sure work on that in practice this week. And not to mention that Dak Prescott is going to be the best quarterback that we faced over the last 2 weeks, right? Obviously.
Easily.
Right? Easily. Exactly.
Easily.
So this is going to be a huge test for us. And again, like Nicky said, I mean, listen, this division is going to continue to be up for grabs all year long. Washington is showing they're not the team we may have thought they were. Dallas is very inconsistent. We're going to be inconsistent. And the Giants, I think we can obviously write them off. They absolutely stink. Okay? Yeah, they're terrible. They are. There's a lot going on in that team. You could already see the dissension in the locker room, on the field. The coaches have no connection with the players whatsoever. Just a bad situation out there in New York. So it's going to be a 3-team race. And I'll tell you, I think it's going to be a 2-team race. I still think this is going to come down to the Eagles and the Cowboys. I'm not losing sight of that. And only because this isn't the NFC West, okay? If it was the West, we'd be talking something completely different.
Yes.
Completely different, right? So that being said, so Chris, as far as looking ahead, because, I mean, listen, it's a 17-11 game. There's literally not much more we can break down. We know what happened. We know we have to work on it. So now we have to look forward to Big D. We have to look forward to Dallas, our formidable foe, right? We already seen them do some really strange things tonight when it comes to clock management. So we already know Mike McCarthy's definitely not on his A game right now. But what are you looking forward to for them to clean up for this week coming up against Big D?
I think the secondary work's a big deal. I don't think the rush defense is as much as a problem as you guys think. I'm looking at what they did today, a 49ers team that does run the ball really that well. They only averaged 3.8 yards per carry. I mean, that's pretty good against a 49ers team that has a really good run scheme and everything else. If we did today, we averaged over 5 yards a carry. I mean, our run game was pretty decent. I mean, if you're getting over 5 yards a carry, that's monster. And at this point, 3.8, it's not the end of the world. I know Tony Pollard looked really well today. We know how good Zeke can be. They have Tyron Smith on the line. Zach Morton did play today, correct? He was there.
Yes, he was a
So
stud.
he was there. So their O-line is there. As much as people want to push that off for the most part, I'm more worried about like a CD Lamb. I think he's going to be a huge problem next week. Amari Cooper, I think we can kind of lock down for the most part with our top corner, but I'm worried about CD Lamb next week. I think he's the biggest issue by far. We need to figure out a game plan for him. If we don't, he goes off. I don't care about the so-called drops and everything. Sunday night, I'm worried about CD Lamb. That's the guy I'm truly worried about.
Yeah,
you need picks. We need picks next week. Yes. Big time. We need interceptions next week. You got to. And Dak does that constantly. Okay. So if we're going to win, we got to intercept him.
Totally agree, Nicky. Totally.
We had Al had some connection problems, though. Here, Al was talking about you can see the 49ers have better coaching, very experienced, and Hurts has a lot to learn, obviously. And one of the biggest things he needs to do is learn when to run and when to pass. And by the way, where were the tight ends? Right? So, again, he's saying, where was Dallas Goedert? Where was Zach Ertz? And, again, I don't think this has anything to do with their capabilities. From what I was understanding and watching in the game, and I'd have to go back and watch the full film, but they were held in a lot to block today. They really were. So I don't know what the game plan was. I don't know if they were worried about Bosa and maybe they were used to Chip. Because, again, we have to think about that. He's a very explosive player, right?
He was offsides all first quarter, though.
What's that?
Bosa was offsides every first quarter, every play. His head is over that line. They should be throwing flags constantly.
On that whole I agree. Totally.
That whole front defense. They were all lined up.
That's an advantage.
And the fact that they allow that to happen is disgusting, especially when you see all these other NFL games that they throw flags every 2 minutes. Give me a break. Call an offsides what is offsides. I mean, to give them that extra inch, the extra 2 inches is baloney. And they need to correct that.
Yes.
Yo, I want to see Nicky Nuts out there reffing like Ed Hockley.
Yeah.
Nicky Nuts and Ed Hockley, man. Yeah. Big guns out there, man. I love it.
We'll start.
I need to go to the gym, then. I need to start working out. I'm going to be like him.
Hey, Tone, every game, in my opinion, I mean, it's not brain surgery. It comes down to the trenches. And our vaunted overpaid defensive line doesn't get consistent pressure game in, game out. Even against Atlanta last week, they got 3 sacks towards the end of the game. And like you said, losing Brandon Graham hurts because not only does he play defensive end, they move him into D-tackle a lot. So maybe you're now going to have to develop Milton Williams, who is a younger looking version of a Brandon Graham who can play both inside and outside. And obviously Kerrigan's now going to get more playing time. And, you know, he's like a Chris Long type of pickup. So you hope that pays off. But an interesting point, I read this today, and it makes total sense. Derek Barnett has more personal fouls than career sacks.
Yep, it's disgusting.
That he and Sweat gets the big contract extension, and notice how Derek Barnett did not. They just picked up his rookie last year number, but he didn't get any extension, so he's going to walk at the end of this year.
Yes, and you make a good point about Milton Williams because now we're going to see if the draft class actually works out, right? So this is where the guys have to step up. And before I get on to that, I want to go back to, and I asked you your opinion about this because Chris talked about, the running capabilities of the Niners, that their yards per carry were pretty low, which I do agree with. But here's what scares me. Is the amount of time they rushed the ball, right? They rushed the ball for 38 times. It gave them a 35-minute time of possession, which was 10 minutes more than us. But so my fear is if you run 38 times with Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott, they're going to rack up a much bigger yards per carry than they did, with Michael Hasty and Elijah Mitchell, and Kyle Juszczyk, right? So that's one of my biggest fears because – so what Dan's saying now is, yes, they used to take Brandon Graham and put him in the middle. But now with the rotation, that rotation that they love to do, it's going to have to be fixed. And you're going to look at Kerrigan to play a lot more snaps than we brought him here to do, right? So that's going to be the issue. The issue, I hate to say it, but Milton Williams could potentially be an X factor on this team going forward. And, just to say, listen, he's the young guy, the fresh legs, and he's supposed to be the guy with the quick moves and the quick feet. So we have to see now, will this work out? I'm not sure. Right? I'm not sure. But listen, that's neither here nor there right now. Right now, we need to make sure that we get all our stuff in check. And Al says, but Dallas isn't smart enough to run the ball that much, Tony.
Oh, I got to say something anyway.
So true.
Al's profile picture is absolute fire. That looks absolutely incrable.
Yeah, I like that.
I need to get that kind of picture.
Absolutely.
That picture's great. Thing. I got to talk to his guy.
Too much of a pucker, though?
Yeah, I don't know, man. He's out there looking like Jay-Z.
Dude,
right?
he looks
like Fitty.
I love it.
He looks like Fitty there.
Al looks great at 60.
Dude, he looks strong. He looks serious. Dude. I love it. I'm all about that.
James checking in. What's up, James? Yo, what's your thoughts, James? Give us your thoughts, man. What are you thinking about? What's your thoughts this game? What's your thoughts going forward?
So I want to talk about something real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I got to jump in. Next week is going to be a shootout. Be ready for the shootout. It's going to happen. The over-under is already set at 52.5. I don't know if people are going to bet it under because of this low-scoring game. This game is going to be a shootout. Mark my words. You're going to have to outscore these guys. Who's going to have the ball last at the end of the day? That's what this kind of game is going to be. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of points. This is what Sunday Night Football is all about. We're going to get it. Hopefully, Jalen Hurts has the ball in his hand at the end of the day, but we're going to need to score a lot of points to win this game.
Yes. It's a good point. Right? What's the number tell you, right, Chris? I mean, you're a numbers guy.
Yeah, I read the numbers all day. That's what I do. We're 2-0 today with the Titans and the Panthers, so we're rolling good.
What about the? I got man. I got to talk about
the Panthers. Is by far my favorite play, hands down. Absolutely loved it.
What about the cuz hitting that? Just saw
I saw that. That was pretty wild. That was kind of a Hail Mary full of grace. But
me and Chris are associated with the Sharp app. So Anthony Gargano has a show now on the Sharp app with our man Kevin.
That was a little Hail Mary, but it worked out.
And he threw it out there on Wednesday. Was like, yo,
God bless him. That was a great play.
Plus 19. Remember, it like give me the points, right? He was like, give me the points, right? And he did 2 bets, but just missed out. But he was all in on Carolina, man.
Yeah, Carolina was my favorite play by far. Absolutely loved them.
Yeah, so James, I like this. James second in. James says, "Well, I'm a 49ers fan, and I thought the Eagles lost the game in the trenches." James, Dan, this is exactly what you said, right? The trenches is what wins or lose games, and you're right. I mean, this goes right to the fact that we allowed Jimmy G to sit there and pick apart our defense. And one thing about Jimmy G, he was exposed, I think it was 3 years ago in that Seattle game. Remember when Jimmy G came out, when all of a sudden they were like the Niners, like 9-0, 7-0. They played Seattle, and Seattle killed them
in the mouth.
Oh my God, man! I don't care how many porn stars he had watching them in the state. It didn't matter, right?
I think that's a negative there. I don't think that actually helped him.
It helps everybody if you're with a bunch of porn stars. That's regardless of the situation. But I want to get into. So we got into Matt Ryan last week. I think Matt Ryan's better quarterback than Jimmy G.
Yes.
I don't think it's even a question. It comes down to coaching. Yep. You had a coach that wanted to do a new philosophy with a lot of the run game, establishing it last week. We had a better coach than Kyle Shanahan today, and so be it. That helped out, and I feel like coaching does help at the NFL at the end of the day. Like you get your talent, things of that nature. You have your Aaron Rodgers of the world that are going to make you look better no matter what. Of course, he didn't look good last week, but that's a whole different story. I can get into that. They're going to kill the Lions next week. So what I'm going at is the coaching is important. Jimmy Garoppolo isn't that great of a quarterback, but Kyle Shanahan ran the beautiful construction of plays today, and that's a lot of hats off to him. He coached better than Sirianni today, and I love Sirianni. I think he coached a great game last week, but it's just one of those games. It wasn't meant for us, and I'm okay for taking this loss because we're not going 17-0. I get it, not a huge deal. I think we have a great chance against the Cowboys next week, and I think Hurts is going to play well, and he's going to prove me wrong once again, and I love it.
James checking in says Kyle puts Jimmy in a place to not fail, and he's absolutely 100%. Right. Kyle knows the limitations of Jimmy G, which is why he always has a 3 two-headed monster at running back. It's exactly why he know that's what. See, this is one thing I'll give Kyle Shanahan, because Kyle Shanahan never got any love. Everybody thought he was just a prodigy. He wasn't a prodigy of Mike Shanahan. He was just a kid who got a job like Brian Schottenheimer because of his dad's reputation. And when he got the head coaching gig, everybody was like, "Oh, nah, man, I'll tell you what." And I'll be honest with you, I questioned it as well, because I'm like, this dude looks like he should just be a coordinator. Kind of like that Mike Martz realm, where Mike Martz could call a hell of an offensive game, but he can't coach a football team. So I was thinking, you know what? This could be the same deal. Yeah. But you know what? I was wrong, right? I was just like I was with Sean McDermott. And I know they're having some issues in Buffalo, but still, I did not think McDermott could take that step to a head coach. So, James, you're absolutely right. He puts him in a place not to fail. Now, Adam says, I get, maybe we got ahead of ourselves, says Eagles play Monday, not Sunday night. So, again, yeah, I didn't, obviously, you're probably right. We probably got a little ahead of ourselves there. But again, Adam, as always, helping us out, part of the family.
My man.
It, as always. But again, listen, we talked about the Niners. Adam's already saying 52-51 Eagles, right? That would be one hell of a game, man. That would be one hell of a game. But Dan,
I don't.
Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
No, I don't want to watch that game. Jesus, 51-52. I'll be at the hospital getting IV.
What you got, Dan?
Well, I agree with 80% of what you say with Kyle Shanahan. He is a very smart football man. And again, I was at that game, and once the adjustments were made, it was screen passes and crossing routes. And he picked us apart because we had no pass rush. And when we, quote, did have a pass rush, that's when he did the dump off screens. So that he made subtle adjustments like that. But I'm not gonna kiss his ass completely. He lost the Super Bowl when he was the coordinator for Atlanta against the Patriots, having Ryan snap the ball with 13 to 15 seconds on the clock. It was just awful time management. And honestly, they had the Super Bowl won against the Chiefs, and I think he pissed that away. So he is a damn good coach, but I'm not. It's kind of like with Andy Reid. I'm not in love with his game management towards the end. But that being said, week 2 of this season, he did a nice coaching job and outcoached Sirianni. But so, kudos to Shanahan, but I'm not going to bow down to him yet.
So James says, if the Eagles wouldn't have went for it on 4th, I believe in the second quarter when they had 1st and goal would have went into overtime. A game that had solid defense, you have to get points whenever you can. And you know what? Listen, that's one thing before we get into final thoughts. That's an interesting point, James. I'm glad you brought that up, because that was that fluky Philly special remake again, right? That we got a way too cute with down at the goal line. So I'm glad you brought that up, man. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was like, okay, wait a minute. Listen, I understand that you want to reinvent the wheel and you want to catch people off guard. But when a game is this close and you need points, let's not get cute and let's get the points on the board. So I completely agree with that. James, I'm glad you brought that up, man. Thank you so much for that. But let's get into this like we always do, because we're about 45 minutes in. We like to keep this under an hour. Let's go to final thoughts like we do every week. There's only 4 of us. We'll go right to left. I'll go first. And we'll end with our man, Mr. Nicky Nuts, as always, to send us out. Okay, but first, you know what? No, we'll go Nick, we'll go Chris, we'll go myself, or Nicholas. I'm sorry. We'll go Dan. Dan first. Final thoughts from today, looking ahead to next week. What do you got?
I'll jump ahead to next week. I think I've said enough on today's game. A concern I have, again, we talked about the Trent, is I don't know if we mentioned that Brandon Brooks got hurt again. And I think his injury is significant. He's always hurt, but when he's in there, he's one of the best guards in all of football. So Al's right. Dallas has a bad defense, but I'm not in the mood to go through our revolving offensive line scenario that we had last year. So let's hope that other than Brandon Brooks, we stabilize the offense somehow. And the defense has to get some kind of pressure on Dak, because as you mentioned, Tone, Zeke and Pollard are going to run the ball, which sets up their playmakers on the outside. Mm-hmm. And Chris, we're lucky that Gallup might not be playing in that game,
Yeah.
right? I mean, imagine if they had Gallup, because Gallup kills us. Lamb and Cooper could be a handful, and Schultz always comes up big against us. So the running game for Dallas will make the exceptional wide receivers even that much more dangerous. And to Chris's point, I hope it's a shootout because that's the only chance I think we have.
I like that. I think you're right, man. I think you're right. Chris, what you got, buddy?
Well, I think at the end of the day, the coaching was kind of the issue. We got kind of cute. We ran the Philly special. The biggest problem is we didn't have this guy behind me, Nicky Foles, my jersey behind me. I'm an Arizona Wildcat, if you guys don't know. So it's the best of both worlds. He won a Super Bowl for me, so he's a kind of a god in my eyes. But I understand the Wentz train was important, and we had to get through with him. Anyway, no one's going to guard that kind of guy like a big giraffe like Wentz. I mean, like Foles that was going to run through there. Hurts is that kind of guy that you got to watch out for at the end of the day. So the play never worked. I think it's important. We can stick to the game plan. This defense isn't all that great. Micah Parsons is a good player. Don't get me wrong. I think he was a steal. I think it was good moves on both ends with the Eagles, us getting Devontae Smith, because I absolutely love Devontae Smith. I don't care if he had 16 yards today. He drew so many penalties. He's a great route runner, and I'm super excited to have him. I don't think there's any issue with him, but I think Micah Parsons is going to be a force for them. I just don't think it's at this time right here, right now. It's going to be a shootout. This over-under is already set at 52.5. I think it's going to get dropped down even more because of this last game. I think you can take it at 52.5 and above that. I still feel like the Eagles can win this game. Dak Prescott does make mistakes, but he can throw it and he can run it at the same time. He's just like Jalen Hurts. The biggest issue at the end of the day is the Brandon Graham issue. He's kind of the anchor of the team. I know Fletcher Cox is outstanding. I get it. But Brandon Graham's been pretty much the leader of this defense, and that might come into play this next week. But I think Jalen Hurts is actually ready to take on this challenge. I think he's been pretty much setting himself up all season, all off season, if you will, of being that guy. Like, he never had it down in his mind with all his Watson talk and everything like that. I think he's ready to go, and I'm super excited. And you cannot talk to a guy more wrong than myself right here, because I was never on the Hurts train ever in my life. And the fact that he is over expectations, the passing yards haven't been truly amazing. I don't care about that. He makes plays, and I think that's super important. When you have to account for him running and Miles Sanders running at the same time, that's super dangerous. And then you got Dallas Goedert on the outside who can make plays. He didn't make a lot of plays today, but I'll tell you what, he could definitely make them next week, and I have no problem with that. This offense is running smooth. Nick Sirianni, he's not going to be perfect, but guess what? I like where his head's at, and I think he definitely game plan really well against this, and I'm super excited, and I think the Birds win this next week.
I like it, man. I like it. Listen, I was all in on Hurts. I'm still all in on Hurts. I said
he's been great. Believe me,
yep.
I wasn't, but he's playing great.
And I'll continue to say it. I like the kid's intangibles, and I know that doesn't always equate to being a formidable starting option in the NFL, but I think in his case it does. Our buddy James checking in on his final thoughts. James, before I even read it, I want to thank you for checking in as a 49ers fan, man. I love it. Absolutely. Continue. You're welcome to join us anytime. He says, go beat the Cowboys, Cowgirls ass, please. Thanks. Great job, fellas. My final thoughts is going to be easy. It's going to be simple. I'm very grounded this year. I came into this year with low expectations, and the simple fact that, yeah, exactly. And I know not everybody's used to hearing that from me. It'll be a different tone once basketball season starts, but football season's completely different. I expected a whole year of evolution between a bunch of different players and a head coach and a young coaching staff. And that's what we're seeing. So this is a learning experience. I get it. People want to be mad, but when they get mad, I just tell everybody, just relax. Not to echo Aaron Rodgers, but just relax. Let it play out. Let's worry about beating who we're supposed to beat. Okay, this was a tough game today. Next week, let's go beat some Dallas ass. Let's get those cockroaches. Okay, like my man Howard Eskin used to say, beat the cockroaches.
Oh, well, all right. Take it easy.
Absolutely.
Let's get it. Howard Eskin.
No, I love Eskin. I don't care what anybody says, man. I'm an Eskin guy. So, give a shout out real fast, as always, again, for everybody tuning in before we end the show with Nikki. I want to thank everybody. Give us a subscription, Heat Ratio Sports Files on all social formats. And as always, the sponsor, Prime Roofing, Blue HVAC, and Rise and React Media. So, without further ado, again, we're going to go end this off. Nick, give us his analytics going towards next week, his final thoughts, and send us home with the Eagles fan. Nick, take it away, buddy.
The best part about this game today is I still have faith. I still have faith that Nick's going to figure it out. Why? Because he talks like he can figure it out. He actually can look at a film and does make adjustments, unlike the other people that we had previous years that never could make adjustments. So keep the faith. Dallas sucks. Dallas sucks. Remember that. They suck. Dak is going to make 11 fumbles, throw the ball 4 times interceptions, and we're going to have at least 1 pick six. So if I can leave you with just this one thing, Dallas sucks. Let's go, Eagles. E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles.